live signal. We're live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Ruidoso workshop meeting. If you'll join me, we'll have a moment of silence, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the Zia symbol, perfect friendship among united cultures. Yeah, I'm doing perfectly all right this morning. Roll call, please. Ms. Devine.
Yes, sir. Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Coughlin,
Here.
Councilor Cornelius, Councilor Cornelius,
Here.
Councilor Salas,
Here.
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Eby.
Councilor Eby,
He's working the election, right?
He's working for election.
Oh, he's working the elections. Okay.
Yeah, he did let me know, Mayor, that he wouldn't be here.
Okay, so he's absent, doing his duty as always. All right, so all here but Joe. Okay, and yeah, that's just the last reminder. I know this group I don't have to remind. Today is election day, so do your duty and be happy about it. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I'm just going to read the agenda items off as we go. So item number 1 is discussion on adoption of resolution 2020-23, a resolution establishing fees for use of parks and recreation facilities for the services associated with the Parks Department. Rodney?
Yes, sir.
You're up.
So that is a renewal of the resolution that was passed last year. In the previous resolution, it stated that it would be renewed prior to July 1 of each calendar year. Well, I don't foresee any need to change any of the fees at this time. However, that the previous resolution had specific dates for the opening of the operating season for parking. And so we amended that to include Friday before Memorial Weekend to Labor Day without any specific dates tied to it. That would be the only changes. And it also references last year's past resolution.
Any questions, anyone?
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Rodney, how are you checking alcohol to see if the people with the boat have permits?
So we have 2 persons on the lake on weekends. They are they're monitoring parking and the litter at this time. And as people bring in vessels, they're visiting them about the need for permits. But we're not out on the water checking vessels.
Right, okay, that's fine. I was just wondering, the last couple of weeks, there's been so many people. I knew that you had people out there, but I didn't know if they were checking for permits.
Mayor, and I just, when I was reporting to the council, the different numbers from the first weekend, Memorial Weekend, I had accidentally told everybody that there was 505 permits. There was $505 of permits.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
That would
I apologize for that.
That's a lot less.
With all the numbers that were going around, I got confused on that, but it was dollars. But just to kind of report on that real quick, yesterday, Rodney, the dam house turned in. What was the payment to you, and then what was your deposit on the fee?
The deposit, including the Memorial Weekend up to yesterday, was around $8,400. And they actually made a partial payment for June just because they are receiving so much revenue, and they really didn't want to be holding on to that much revenue. They felt that they would pay us the boat rental portion earlier than anticipated. So that did include a prorated
When do we-
rent
When
for
we look at the
May
records.
and the
On a weekly
fees
basis.
for the
We're actually
rentals.
looking at them. Boo.
Yes, Rodney, they were, the question was, when are we looking at the record? And I let the mayor know that we're, looking at the records on a weekly basis. Rodney's reviewing it, and I believe also, who else is reviewing it, Rodney?
Melissa and I are both reviewing it. When they submit me the report, I break it down, all the hourly and half hourly rentals, because there's a different rate on the two. And then Melissa's verifying it as she's making the deposits.
Okay,
And then she's attaching that report to the deposit as well.
awesome.
Hey, Rodney, can you remind me, I don't remember what we had agreed as far as boats on Alto. Do we allow boats on Alto Lake?
Yes.
Yes, sir. The only difference as far as boats go is Grindstone, we allow electric trolling motors, and Alto Lake, we do not allow trolling motors.
Okay,
But the vessel types are the same, both lakes.
okay, and part of the confusion also was looking at this resolution. At the very top of the spreadsheet portion of it, it says Grindstone Lake, and then goes ahead to define the different fees, including vessel annual permits. But then there's nothing as far as Alto Lake. So it makes it appear as though it's only at Grindstone Lake.
If you wish, we could change the title. I don't foresee any issue with that, unless there's something with it having to do with the previous resolution.
Yeah, I'm wondering if just in that one section, we just remove the reference to Grindstone Lake, because the fees are the same no matter where it's going to be. It just depends upon whether that activity is allowed at the different locations. And then one other thing, Ronnie, you said you've got 2 people out there monitoring the lake and litter. I've been getting a lot, and I'm sure you have too, been getting a lot of complaints about litter out at the lake. In fact, I got some from last evening. People were out walking saying the trash cans were overflowing. Are we monitoring that on a daily basis, or how do we monitor that?
Yes, sir. So the lakes both lakes are being monitored on a daily basis. That is something new this year with the amount of traffic. As an example, I was at Grindstone this morning, and I'm just amazed at the amount of traffic. I mean, we're doing patrolling litter and trash cans multiple times a day. And this morning, from a Monday, the trash cans were full.
Yeah.
And so it's been quite the change, but yes, it has been being addressed daily.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question, Mayor.
Go right ahead.
This isn't a for or against Rodney. So why are we charging at Grindstone parking, but we don't charge at Alto?
So the amount of activity is drastically different. We did initiate this because we were last year anticipating bringing in that amount of traffic. And so for me, it really is a management tool. Without it, it would truly be a nightmare. It's already difficult to deal with. Just with our current numbers, initially we started off with 6 persons at Grindstone on Memorial Weekend. This weekend, we're gonna move up to 8 persons. Those 8 persons are needed to not only manage the traffic and boat permits and litter, but we're also patrolling Resort Drive all the way from Sunset, I believe it's Sunrise Court, all the way to the Resort Drive and intersection of Grindstone. We're requiring 8 persons to do that. At this time, Grindstone, we can manage it with 2. However, people have been parking on the right of way. If the governing body wishes to implement a parking structure or fee structure at Alto, we could perform that as well.
Well, this year is definitely different than last year, with the amount of vehicles going to Alto. I mean, it's just gotten crazy, the amount of people there as well. So I think to answer Susan, when we first did it, like you mentioned, we were anticipating much more volume at Grindstone, and Alto just wasn't included in that decision. But now, I mean, it's getting crazy where that overflow parking is packed every weekend as well.
I just worry so much that, of course, Memorial was a 3-day weekend, but that it was just car to car on both sides after the overflow parking. I was just kind of concerned, and I don't know that making people pay is the answer, but I think that is really a dangerous situation there.
I agree. I've asked that maybe DOT can go out there and put no parking signs and then have some enforcement as well, because it's just going to be a matter of time. Somebody's going to park across the road, come running through there and get hit.
Ron, can you follow up with that with DOT?
I sure will. I'll visit with them and see what they say on that. They would have to be state police that have to monitor it, or
correct,
but county.
But if DOT puts up some no parking signs, I think that'll alleviate the problem.
Hopefully. I mean, some people ignore them, as we know, near Grindstone, but
Yeah. Okay. All right, we good? Okay, so we want this one on consent or?
I'm good with consent since there's no change in fees.
Anybody else have any
Yeah.
comments?
Yes, consent.
Okay, we'll put it on consent unless someone has opposition. Okay, and we'll move on to item number 2. Before we do, I messed up already and did not announce where all you good folks are located. So just for the record, I'm supposed to announce this. Here in the council chambers, we have Councilor Coughlin. We have Village Manager Tim Dodge, Village Clerk Irma Devine, and becoming more important every day, Jeffrey Ferguson, our IT support guy. The Village Manager's office, we have Councilor Cornelius, Councilor Lutterman, and Deputy Manager Ron Senna. In the Capital Projects office, pardon me, we have Councilor Jackson. Councilor Eby is not here. He's doing the voting poll. And then our attorney, Zach Cook. And then and also from home, we have, or elsewhere, is Councilor Salas on Zoom.
Yep.
All right, so item number 2 is discussion on agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the Humane Society of Lincoln County for the village, for the operation of the animal shelter, which I've been going by there quite often looking for a puppy dog, and it is super nice. So we have Chief Hooker, and he's going to tell us he's got all that barking under control.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councilors. No, we haven't had any more complaints, knock on wood. Officer Simpson's been working with the staff down there to try to alter their schedule as far as bringing the dogs out in the morning. But again, we just fell back to last year's monetary amount, and that's what got put into the agreement.
Okay. And I know they had requested more, as did most everyone, but we just kind of fell back to what we had because of everybody knows why. Does anybody have any questions of Chief Hooker?
Chief, I just noticed there's one typo in here in the page. I don't know what page it is, but it's under number 9, the third paragraph. It says all tagged anima, and it should have an L at the end of it.
That was just an additional service, I think, that was
Yeah, well,
animus.
and anima. not
Anima.
Anima.
So we're
Okay,
doing
we'll
that
try to
LS.
look at that.
Okay.
And then the only thing that I would say is unless the Humane Society wanted to come and give an update on what's going on, tie the two together, then go ahead and put it under consent.
Okay. Does anybody want to hear from the Humane Society, or do we want this on consent? We have one person saying consent. I like consent. Anybody else have any ideas?
Consent.
Okay, we're consenting. All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Item number 3 is a discussion on agreement with Lincoln County Adult Literacy Program, a New Mexico nonprofit corporation to provide office space and other logistical support to the adult literacy program in Lincoln County. And who is that one? Is that Diane?
This is Diane.
Yes, ma'am.
The agreement hasn't changed from last year, and there's no monetary value exchange. We provide office space, a computer, and we also provide meeting space for the tutors, students.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Consent.
Consent. Okay. Anybody else?
Consent.
Okay, we got item 3 on consent. Thank you, Diane. Number 4 is discussion on agreement with Boys and Girls Clubs of Chavez and Lincoln counties to fund the triple play game plan for the Mind, Body, and Soul program for Ruidoso youth. Does anybody have any additional questions on that?
Mayor, I just always ask that this be put on regular,
Okay.
because I don't vote on this agreement.
Everybody else agree?
Sure.
Okay. For
Tim,
Yes,
used to get any matching money on this?
I'm sorry?
you getting matching money on this?
Matching money on this?
No, not on this specific one. There's no requirement for matching money. And this funds that triple play program completely in Ruidoso.
Okay.
Okay, so this will be on regular items. Number 5 is the discussion on agreement with Data Pros, LLC IFB number 2020-009B for automated statement processing for the village of Ruidoso. And is this one Karen Gutierrez or is John doing it?
Mayor, I'll be presenting this.
Okay.
All it is the agreement. Council had awarded the IFB on the last council meeting. We did not have the agreement ready at that time as we were trying to make sure that Data Pros was understanding what our delivery requirements were. So it's just bringing forth the agreement for approval.
Okay. Any other questions? Consent?
Consent.
Okay, awesome. Number 5 on the consent. Item number 6, discussion on acknowledgement of continuance on agreement with Host Compliance LLC for electronic web-based collection of lodgers tax software. And is this one Samantha? Sam?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This agreement has increased by $3,000, and that number is based on the number of rental units that are being found online.
She never confirmed it or no?
Oh, she did. Okay, I'll,
I don't think anybody has any questions. Does everybody understand it? The $3,000 increase was because of the traffic and whatnot?
Yes.
Okay, consent?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Mayor, you didn't include me on that?
I don't know, I just got it.
I didn't.
Okay.
I dropped off the email on that for some reason.
Okay. But we'll check with Robin.
Yeah.
Okay, item number, where am I at? Number 7, discussion on Ruidoso stewardship agreement with the National Forest Foundation for fiscal year 2020 to allow customers to make voluntary contributions to support projects implemented on the Lincoln National Forest and adjacent public lands. Tell us a little bit about it, Rodney.
So this is recommending the approval of an additional year to the National Forest Foundation fee that has been collected from contributions to the parking fees collected at Grindstone Lake. So from each of the individual $5 parking passes, in the previous agreement, we submitted $1 from each of those $5 permits to that foundation. Last operating season for the WIBIT, we ended up contributing approximately $7,000 towards that fund to, as the agreement states, to implement a project around Ruidoso, either on public property or Forest Service property. Currently, a project has not been selected to be implemented. I know the work group is trying to put something together in the near future. There's a handful of potential projects that have been suggested. I will work with the group to include the mayor or anyone else who wishes to be on that selection committee. I think it's been, so far, the amount of funding that has been contributed has been pretty substantial. We are the only contributing business or municipality at this time. That program is open to other businesses, and before kind of the economic change we had several businesses that were interested, but due to the change, no one else has joined at this time. I would like recommend that we continue with this partnership. One of the potential projects that I think would add a huge value both to the Grindstone system and to the village is the Forest Service is wanting to put a trailhead in Sawmill Canyon, which would alleviate some of the pressure currently off the Grindstone trailhead. It would create a second trailhead into that area, which would allow access to hikers, mountain bikers, equestrians, and so it could distribute the amount of people visiting that area. I'm open for any questions that y'all might have about this program.
Hey, Rodney, describe the area where it's Sawmill. How do you get there to Sawmill Canyon?
So the entrance is near I believe it's the Rainbow Lake RV Park off of Carrizo Canyon.
Yes.
The Forest Service boundary is, I don't know, roughly around 300 yards, 400, 500 feet off the main road. And so it's a really convenient location right to the southern boundary of that RV park. Last year, we actually had a lot of persons staying in that RV park actually bike up Grindstone or Carrizo and Grindstone to get to the lake. This would be another alternative that would allow people to actually bike in from that area and get on the trails. it's really convenient, location, not only for the RV park, but it's another trailhead that's just, minutes from Midtown.
Thank you, and yes, I think that's a worthy project, to accommodate more access to that area. So I like that one.
Rodney, what was the project for 2019? Did they have one?
No, ma'am, that's the projects that we're currently looking at. So, at the end of the operating season for the WIBIT, that's when we submitted a payment of $7,000, and the intention was to select a project this spring. It has been delayed, but we're still looking at trying to at least evaluate the projects in the month of June, this month.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem, the mayor stepped out. If you could take the meeting.
Okay, is there any more, or wow, where do we want to place this, on consent or regular?
I'm good with consent.
Consent it will be. Thank you, Rodney. Moving on to item number 8. Discussion on professional service agreement with the Ruidoso Midtown Association to promote the Midtown District in the village of Ruidoso. Samantha?
Yes, Councilor Salas, this is a renewal agreement for the Ruidoso Midtown Association. They've been budgeted $35,000, and this also shows their scope of work for the next fiscal year, and we are going to revisit it in October to align it with the Midtown Association's goals.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, just to elaborate on that a bit, if I may.
Yes, please.
Council, the Main Street program is a partner in this agreement as well. And Daniel, the director, Gutierrez, comes up and they do an annual review through the New Mexico Main Street Association with the Midtown Association. And that's how they put together the scope of work based upon the 4-point approach. So in October, right about that time frame is when their new scope of work comes out. So we just noted that within their agreement that the scope of work will be changed in accordance with the work plan with the New Mexico Main Street Association.
And yeah, Tim, you just brought up what I was reviewing again on there. To the other counselors, I kind of feel this is a regular item, so we can discuss the scope of work and have it, more explained of the purpose of what we're doing for our Midtown Main Street program. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's how I was gonna ask. If we could, have a little discussion or more review, just like what Tim had talked about and going on with what our projects are there, working along with the Midtown Association.
I would agree with that. Looking through the scope of work, the one thing in here that caught my eye, and this is back from 2018, is to develop and implement Midtown Merchant Main Street membership. But then I know there was also talk about Merchants Association membership, and I don't know where they're at as far as getting that going. So it'd be nice to know what's happening.
Anyone else?
I think it needs to be on regular.
I'll have Matt attend the meeting and give an update on the whole 4-point approach and where they're at with their scope.
That would be good, Tim. So it'll be regular item. Moving on to item number 9. Discussion on joint funding agreement 20 RGJFA 23 with the United States Department of Interior, United States Geological Survey for the operation of the USGS stream flow and precipitation gauges. And I believe that's Eric. Eric, are you online?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, I'm Eric Boyda, the Watershed and Water Rights Director. This is our annual renewal agreement for the 5 USGS stream gauges and then the precipitation station at Buck Mountain. All of these are obligations of water right permits, the special use permit, and a settlement. The USGS pays for a portion of the project. So the total project is for around $98,000, and the USGS pays, and partners of the USGS pay for about $44,000, and we pick up the rest. So the bill will be for $53,425.
Okay. Any questions for Eric on this? It's pretty standard, and we've been doing it for years. I don't hear any questions for Eric. However, I do, Eric. I remember in times past where the USGS are responsible for the maintenance of this gauges, and mainly when sediment will build up on the partial flumes. I don't even know if we still use those, but the village ended up having to go clean those out at our expense. Have we had any more issues on that, on the maintenance of these gauges?
Mayor Pro Tem, no. Part of the reason for us working with USGS and paying for some of that maintenance was because some of those gauges are critical for our operations. And the USGS would likely not clean them out to the extent that they would need to. But that issue has substantially dropped off as we see increased vegetation from the Little Bear fire scar. So we're, especially on Eagle Creek, I think the last time we cleaned out those gauges was 2 years ago, and they still look relatively good.
Okay, well, that's good. I would suggest we put this in consent.
Yes.
Yeah. Consent, it will be moving on to item 11, discussion on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and Linda Hand for prevention specialist services for the DWI prevention program.
Excuse me,
I
Rifle.
believe that's Chief Hooker.
Rifle? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
You skipped over.
Mayor
Rifle, you skipped over number 10.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's basically the same thing as 9, just a different monitoring.
Oh, yeah, that's the other one. Discussion on joint funding agreement. I thought I just did that one.
No, this is another one.
It's another one.
Okay. That's 20 RGJFA 35 with United States Department of Interior Geological Survey, USGS, for project title Periodic Survey on North Fork Eagle Creek from North Fork Eagle Creek Stream Gauge 08387550 to Eagle Creek below South Fork Stream Gauge 08387600. Mr. Boyda.
It's kind of interesting, the joint funding agreement numbers we used to renew when the USGS was changing their contracts. And so a lot of these used to have like 8 zeros in a row in the front of it. And it was always kind of fun listening to you guys read it, but I think it's a little bit more fun to read these letters. So this one is for a project on North Fork Eagle Creek. It's an obligation of the special use permit with the Forest Service for a gradient study that we do survey, or well, we don't do it. The USGS does gradient surveys from the gate up by the cabins on North Fork Eagle Creek all the way down to Ski Run Road. This is the final year of the study. And so this cost increased a little bit more because they're starting to pay for starting to compile the final report. So this project will cost $33,000, $660, but the USGS cost shares in it. So the USGS is contributing $15,000. The next year is just going to be a small portion to finish up the report, and then we won't have to do this for another 3 years. But we'll have to do this a renewal study every 3 years after this.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Eric on that, or? And as with the other one, I see it as a consent item. What do you all say?
Agreed.
So consent it will be.
Okay. Hey, Mayor.
Now item.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could bump in here.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate you doing this, but I'm gonna have to ask you to continue if you can. I've got that phone call has prompted a emergency meeting, nothing health-wise or life or death, but it's a timing issue, and this feels pretty well under control with you guys running it. So I would like to excuse myself and you continue on with the meeting if you would, please.
Okay, no problem, Mayor. Enjoy your other meeting, and hopefully it'll all resolve.
I live for meetings. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, item 11. Discussion on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and Linda Hand for prevention specialist services for the DWI prevention program. And I thought Chief Hooker would take over this, but it says Bill Henson. So I don't know, Tim, who do you have?
I believe Chief Hooker, I don't believe Bill's on.
I think Bill is on, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, I didn't see him.
Okay.
Yeah, he is there. Bill?
Mayor Pro Tem, this is a MOU with Linda Hand to provide the certification for prevention specialist for our DWI program. It's required by DFA. And she will also be doing the natural helpers for Hondo and Carrizozo. And it will total $26,400 for this year. And that will come out of the DWI grant.
Okay, and for some reason I kept thinking Linda Hand was going to be phasing out as in the next item, Region 9, was to have their specialist services. But we'll just continue with Linda, which I have no problem with, but is that going to be coming in the near future?
Well, Region 9 has got Mandy Mader working on getting her prevention specialist certificate. And once she does that, Linda will probably bow out. That's the plan anyway. I don't know. It's not going to happen this next year. Hopefully in fiscal year 22, that will be the case.
Okay, because I kind of recall this conversation last year, that Miss Mader was gonna be getting her certification as a specialist. But anyway, it's a great program and we definitely need it. So, what says the other counselors as
Well,
consent?
I have a question for Bill really quick. I just want to verify.
Sure.
There's a sole source letter attached to this stating that Linda is the only IC and RC certified prevention specialist in the village of Ruidoso. Is that certification required for this position?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I just didn't see anything in any of the other documentation that required that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was required. So I would say consent.
Any other? Okay.
Linda's
Any
done
other
this
questions
years,
for Bill? And moving it on to consent.
Yes.
I guess, okay, good.
Yes.
We'll place it on consent. Moving on to item 12. Discussion on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as fiscal agent for the Lincoln County DWI program and Region 9 for a part-time preventionist. And Bill, go ahead and
Yes, sir.
see what,
This is for the PYPM program and the Maze of Life and the Health Fair and various other things that, for instance, they're going, Mandy Mater will be taking over as the secretary of the DWI Council. She'll be responsible for the notifications of the meetings and for the minutes and so forth. This position will total $38,004 for this next fiscal year. And she is assuming these duties from what Linda Hand used to do. So Linda is phasing out slowly.
okay,
Okay, so Bill, so then tying back into that previous one, this establishes Region 9 as part-time preventionist. Does that require certification, or because it's not a preventionist specialist, then it doesn't require it?
No, it doesn't require certification. And like I say, they have Mandy working on getting her prevention certificate, but at this time, she doesn't have it.
Okay, but she doesn't need it as a part-time preventionist, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
As long as we have one certified preventionist on board, that's all that's required.
Okay.
She is, Linda Hand will be responsible for reviewing and approving what Region 9 presents to the schools and so forth in the prevention program.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. So, Mayor Pro Tem, I would again say that this can go under consent.
I agree.
I agree. Yes. Okay, that moves on to consent as well. Moving to item number 13. Discussion on remodel of the solid waste shop in the amount of $158,973, including gross receipt tax through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, agreement with White Sands Construction. Jerry Parsons.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. This expansion will allow us to be able to work on our semi trucks inside the shop. We will be able to pull them in off of the east side, back them off of Close Road into the shop and work on them inside instead of out back where we've been doing it for all these years. It came in, we have 160,195 in there budgeted, and West End's construction came in at 158,973. So we came in real under what we wanted to do there. They willingly have said they would do it.
Okay, Jerry, the only question I have, and I might have just missed it, what's the projection of the total project, or how long will it take, to say?
He said that it would probably be a month out. What I wanted to do, Mayor Turn, is get a PO so I could roll it over so we could get started on it this year. And after they get going on it, he said it'd probably be 6 weeks of, putting up the walls and the new framework.
Wow, that's pretty quick. Any other counselors have questions for Jerry? And where would we like to place this item, consent or regular?
I would like to say, mostly because of the dollar amount, put it under regular. And it gives Jerry an opportunity to explain to the public as well.
I agree with that.
Because I'm sure you guys do not enjoy working on these trucks in the rain and the snow and the wind and everything else.
Yes, sir, that is true.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you working on those trucks in the rain, snow, and everything else, Jerry. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that.
Many years.
Nothing like packing bearings with wind, with dust blowing around.
That's true. Or taking heads off of an engine, outside. Yeah. I mean, it's just a bad deal.
Well, it'll be a regular item. Moving on to item 14.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Jerry. Thank you. Item 14 is discussion on first renewal agreement with Yen and Associates, Inc. for professional engineering services for dam improvements, compliance, and planning projects for the Grindstone and Alto dams. Ms. Karen Gutierrez.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, good morning. I inadvertently, we left Randy Kane off of this agenda memo, as he should be the presenter for his for this renewal, but I'm not sure if Randy's on or has anything else to add to it, but basically this is just a first renewal for the for Yee and Associates, for them to continue doing engineering services for both the Grindstone, the Alto Lake projects that they've been coming up with. Randy, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Like I said, it's just a first renewal so they can continue working.
Yeah, we just basically completed the first task order. The second one is out and should start in 2 to 3 weeks. And then the third one's gonna be on the next council meeting. But no, we're starting to move along on this project, and hopefully it goes well.
And they've been providing reports and stuff timely?
Sure. Yes, they have the, we hit a stale point when they switched project managers, but we're back on key and everything's starting to flow pretty quick now.
That sounds good, Randy. I appreciate it. Any questions for Randy from the other counselors? Should we put this on consent or regular?
Consent.
We'll go with consent. Thank you, Randy, for keeping up on this. I remember having to deal with Elaine Pacheco at the Dam Safety Bureau, and boy, that was something I learned really quick about reporting times.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Moving on to item 15, discussion on first renewal agreement with the Ruidoso Valley Chamber of Commerce for professional services for operation of both the Ruidoso Visitor Center and the Billy the Kid Visitor Center for the Village of Ruidoso in an amount not to exceed $151,150 for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And Ms. Mendez.
Yes, Councilor Salas, this is the first renewal agreement for the Ruidoso Valley Chamber of Commerce. And it'll commence should y'all approve it on July 1st and terminate June 30th of next year. And Becky Brooks, the president, has signed off on the agreement.
So is this a higher amount this year than it was last year? Dollar wise?
I think it's the same.
Yes, it's the same.
Okay, because I'm looking at budget, and the budget for the visitor center is projected to be, say, about $500 less, but then the budget for the visitor center at the chamber is like $3,000 higher. So that's why I wasn't sure where we're at. Because if you add those two budgets up, it's more than $151,000.
What we have on the budget? What we have on the budget?
151, 150. Oh, for what she's budgeting?
No, what we're budgeting?
Well, so I don't know, the budget is 151,150 is our budget.
Right.
But then her budget that's listed is 52,450 and 107,200.
Okay, yeah, Samantha, I thought we had changed that to make it consistent with the agreement, that's all we were awarding. And, you know, in addition to that, I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and they're not intending on opening up the Billy the Kid Center anytime soon. Now that they've been closed, they've actually forgone payment for the 2 months that they've been closed.
What about the visitor center at the chamber?
That one is going to be reopening.
That's going to be reopening. Okay, because in the one letter in here, something I read somewhere that visitor centers were not able to open for the governor's orders, but I haven't seen anything in any governor's orders specifically related to visitor centers.
I think they're anticipating opening up on the 1st.
Of what? June?
Of July.
July?
Yes.
Okay. Just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we've got visitors coming into town, and unless there's something that I'm missing in any of the orders, because I read through them all, and I haven't seen anything regarding calling out visitor centers specifically. Because we've got a lot of visitors coming.
We can ask Becky to be here for the meeting if you all would like.
Maybe.
Or on Skype.
Yeah, maybe we might want to do that, is make it a regular and then have Becky give us an update on what's happening.
Yeah, that would be good.
And if she has information specifically to that, if she could provide that as well.
Okay.
Is everyone else okay with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. So it'll be on the regular item. Thank you, Tim, for bringing that up, because I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Moving on to item 16. Discussion on second renewal agreement with Eco Servants Inc. for fiscal year 2021 for professional services for community partnership improvement projects and service in the amount of $12,400, including gross receipt tax. Rodney, you're up.
Good morning. So this is our annual agreement with the Eco Servants to provide services to the village, such as like thistle eradication, trail maintenance, building of trails, cooperation with park beautification projects, and then really just maintenance and additional items as needed throughout the year. As an example, a current project that they're working on this week is they are constructing a trail from the lower parking area at Alto Lake to the upper parking area in order to provide the pedestrians with the safe passage instead of walking in the road. We are recommending, the approval of this agreement or the agenda item. The amount has been the same as the previous 2 years, and I visited with the Eco Servants and to confirm that they are able to perform these services this year, and they are in agreement.
Yeah, I think this is a bargain in capital letters for the village. The amount of work they put in is well more than, the value's higher than $12,400. So this is one that definitely we need to agree on, and I would suggest we put it on consent.
I agree. They're such an asset to our village. That $12,400 just doesn't even show how much they are appreciated or what they're worth.
Well, I believe it, like Rodney said, it's been the last couple of years. It's been up at a number. Prior to that, I think it was about half. Then they were doing tons of work for that.
Which is all good, and yes, they're an asset to the village and community.
Yeah, fortunately, we won't be able to have Stephen bring in the 30 people to fill up the audience, but we know they'll be out there working.
And maybe, Rodney, that might be a Monday chore that they may be able to hit the lakes with all the trash everywhere too. So I don't know if they can work that in. Because I thought I saw a posting that they were hiring for the summer. But
That's right. I saw it too, Rifle.
okay, so maybe we get more, but again, they're such a good asset. So this is on consent. I'm assuming everybody's in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Consent it will be. Moving on to item 17. Discussion on third renewal agreement with John Shoemaker and Associates, Inc. for professional on-call hydrological services for the utility department and task orders RFP number 2018-001P 21, RFP 2018-001P 22, and RFP number 2018-001P 23 in the amount not to exceed $49,000, $21,000, and $50,000 respectively, including gross receipt tax. Mr. Boyda.
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, this is our third and final renewal with John Shoemaker and Associates. We'll be advertising a new RFP this next fiscal year. This is just our 3 base on-call services that we do with them. General hydrogeological services is the 21. Task order number 22 is for the legal services. And then 23 is for regular monitoring. Be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for Eric on this? It's pretty standard, and Roger does provide pretty good reports on the measurements. Or I don't know if it's Roger, it's probably Sherry that's doing all the reporting.
Roger and Sherry both are some of the primary staff. They have had some new staff that maybe once things clears up, if they come down, we can meet with them.
Okay. Any questions with Eric on this? And this being the third renewal, I just see it again as a consent item.
I agree.
I agree.
Consent item LB. Moving on to item 18. Discussion on third renewal agreement with Henning House and Olson LLP for professional water rights attorney services and task order RFP number 2018-002P-06 in the amount not to exceed $80,000, including gross receipt tax. Mr. Boyda.
Mayor Pro Tem, just like with the Shoemaker and Associates, this is the third and final renewal with Henning House and Olson providing our professional water rights attorney services. It's looking like we'll have our hearing for our water right leases this fiscal year. And so that's why the amount is increased a little bit from 50 to 80,000 this year.
I kind of figured that, so any questions for Eric on this item?
So Eric, in the memo itself, under item discussion, it says task order, blah, 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 05 is attached and would authorize up to 50,000. But everything else is talking about task order 6 for 80,000. Is that just a typo?
Yeah, so I'll work to get that fixed. Okay. In the Nova's agenda, you can copy the last year's one, and I apologize, I missed.
That's what I assumed. Okay, not a problem. Thank you.
What says the council, consent or regular?
Consent.
I agree. It'll be consent item. Moving on to item 19. Discussion on fourth renewal land lease agreement with Richard Smith for land lease at the Sierra Blanca Regional Airport. Who's that? Joe?
Yes, sir, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, sir, I'm here today. This is our fourth and actually final agreement with Richard Smith on his land lease agreement. It was a 30-year lease. They did an initial 10-year and then 4 or 5-year period. So this is the 5-year period of his land lease. So this will be the fourth and final 5-year period. And I did make one typographical error in the third paragraph. It states, whereas the parties hereto previously entered into a land lease agreement for, I put 1 5-year period, it could be 3 5-year periods, and I will make that change.
Okay.
That is all. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Joe? I see it as a consent item, being again the last renewal agreement. What says the council? Consent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 20. Discussion on final change order number 1 and final completion with Adamo Sanchez Excavating and Trucking Inc. for the Grindstone Canyon Wetlands Project. That's Eric and Karen.
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. So this final change order number 1 was just an adjustment of quantities. There's no adjustment in contract costs. So what had happened is there was a stretch of the stream that we felt would be best if there was another log pour over structure. And so we installed an additional one beyond the design plans. And then we had intentions of planting 8 cottonwood trees, narrow-leaf cottonwood trees, but that size of tree was not available. And so rather than going to a smaller tree, we opted to go to a larger tree and less of them. So there's 4 larger cottonwood trees. And to compensate for the increase in cost for those trees and for the log roll structure, we reduced the wetland plant plugs from 2,000 to 1,700. And me and the engineer of record didn't really feel that this change was going to substantially impact our success of the mitigation wetlands because we had some additional seeding done with native wetland seed, and they've actually been establishing really well. I walked the wetland last week.
It looks great, Eric.
Hopefully in the next couple of years, it will look really good.
Yes, it does coming out forming nice. And yeah, I agree with that, getting 4 larger trees, because those will probably establish a lot quicker.
And then the purpose for that was to get some more shade on those wetlands, and we can reduce some of the evaporative losses. So, that's why the engineer and I thought that it'd be best to go for the bigger trees.
Hey, Eric,
Okay.
Eric, can you, so just for a point of information and education on my part, so I was always under the assumption that a cottonwood tree is kind of like a juniper that just sucks up water like crazy. Is that true? And why did we select cottonwood to be in a wetland area? Would that not create a problem?
So all trees that are adjacent to adequate water supply will substantially increase the amount of water that they use. It's just that the cottonwood is an obligate to having that moisture.
All I know is better than an elm tree.
Okay, I've just seen pictures out in, the junipers out in a grassy area that for a distance away from the juniper, the grass has a very difficult time growing because they just really suck up a lot of water. And I always thought cottonwood was similar to the same thing. But you're saying that any tree placed near a water source will suck up more water than if it's not near a water source.
Yes.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you.
Any other questions for Eric from the other counselors?
Consent.
None? Yeah, I'm thinking consent on this.
Nice to see another
Everyone
one
up?
come in under budget.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna call for a 7-minute break. I have too many cups of coffee. Take a break for 7 minutes and we'll reconvene at 9:17. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Okay, doke.
And we are muted. Okay.
unmuted on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
And unmuted on.
Yes, sir.
Rifle?
Counselor Salas? Counselor?
Carol.
Counselor Salas?
Yes,
Yes, I'm here.
I was gonna ask you, what's your schedule this afternoon? Around 2, 3 o'clock?
Are we live?
2, 3 o'clock. There's,
Can I get a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on with item number 21, discussion on task order 2019-002P04 with Bohan Houston Inc. for the design of trail rehabilitation of the Links walking path in the amount not to exceed $100,000, including gross receipt tax. Mr. Griego.
Good morning. This is the task order for Bohannon Houston to proceed with the designing of the Moon Mountain trails, or I forget. No, for the Links trail rehab. I apologize. All of these trail projects are running together. So we have an existing agreement in place with the Department of Transportation. We're just we have reviewed, both the village and the Department of Transportation has reviewed their scope of work, their fee summary. The design estimate is within the allocated budget for the design. And again, we would like to issue a purchase order after the approval of the task order for them to start with the design of that trail rehabilitation. I'm open for any questions that you all may have.
Hey, Rodney, I'm looking at the scope of work and it says along White Mountain Trail, White Mountain Drive, the trail is adjacent to the roadway with plastic bollards separating the road and trail. So are we going to continue with those little plastic things that get run over all the time, or are we going to change that up?
It is very unlikely that they will continue with the bollards, being that we are accepting federal funds to perform this work. They will have to comply with all of the federal highway standards. Most likely, they will have to include some type of hard surface barrier between the trail and the roadway. The more I'm learning about these type of processes, it will most likely at minimum be a curb. I don't believe that they would utilize the bollards.
Okay, thank you. I know when I walked on that, it's like you better keep your eyes open for cars coming around those corners. And just to be clear,
any other questions?
Just to be
Any
clear,
other
since this
questions?
is federal money, that trail is gonna be able to withstand a fully loaded semi when it's all done.
I think that'll be a challenge because there's like a 30-inch culvert right under it, especially on White Mountain Drive.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I still think $100,000 for design is crazy.
It is. Any other questions for Rodney? And is this a consent or regular?
Consent.
Consent. I'll go with consent also. Consent it is.
Thank you.
Moving on to item, you're welcome. Moving on to item number 22, discussion on task order RFP number 2018-005P06 with Moulton Corbin and Associates Inc. for professional engineering services for Fault H1979 S10 and Brown H1497S well improvements in the amount not to exceed $276,810.76, including gross receipt tax. Eric Boyda.
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. So, as you guys remember from the 2018 Eagle Creek Wellfield Design Assessment, the first phase of our Eagle Creek Wellfield project was the Alto 2, which is under construction right now, the Apple Orchard and Middle Gatlin wells, which are also under construction now. And so we're entering into the second phase with Fault and Brown well. The engineering bidding, the traditional engineering services total was $157,000, but we've also added time and materials for construction observation. Once we get this project designed and moving forward, it's likely they'll be in conjunction with a lot of other substantial construction projects. So we want to make sure that we have those funds available in case our staff can't adequately observe the project. The other thing is the NMED has not been so strict on reactivating wells and getting them up to the current codes. And so if you remember, we had talked about with the A2 well that we were performing a washover where you drill out on the outside of the well casing down to 50 feet to put that annular seal in there. Both of these wells don't have that, but recently the Drinking Water Bureau has approved using site grading to discourage drainage from settling down adjacent to a well. And so by trying to propose that will save a substantial amount with the construction costs. But if NMED doesn't go for that, we've included this additive alternate for that design specification and observation of that additional work. So we don't anticipate that amount to the 18,000 to be part of it. So the total that I'm asking for approval for is the amount that's listed in the summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Eric? Well, I will make a comment, Eric. Great job. on all this well planning, because I always have that concern of one day the Forest Service doesn't renew our special use permit, and we're taking all the steps moving forward to increase our other wells and maintain them. It's a great job on this, and I agree on what your additive alternates will probably imply. But anyway, that's my statement. Anyone else? And I would like to just to show, you know, how we're keeping up with our water production and stuff, and just the statements Eric made there, that we have it as a regular item, so we could discuss it more in detail of how we're improving our water systems.
I agree.
Right, I'll bring some numbers, Mayor Pro Tem, about some of the changes in diversions, percentages, and where water's coming from.
That's great, great. So that will go on regular item. Thank you, Eric. Moving on to item number 23, discussion on award of RFP 2020-008P to Henson Consulting for the most responsive and qualified firm for DWI Grant Program Coordinator for the Village of Ruidoso, Lincoln County. And we have presenter John Commander or Ron Senna. Which one is it?
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and councilors. This is John Commander. Our contract with Hanson Consulting is for the DWI Grant Program Coordinator, expires June 30th of this year. So we issued this RFP. We published in 3 newspapers on May 19th with a deadline of May 26th to submit proposals. We received 1 proposal from Hanson Consulting, and the committee evaluated it, and it did meet all of our requirements and was responsive. So we recommend the award of this RFP to Hanson Consulting for the DWI Grant Program Coordinator.
Okay, and I agree with that committee. I think Mr. Hanson has been doing a wonderful job with this program over the many years. Any questions for John? No, and I see it as a consent item. What says you guys? Consent. We will list it as a consent item. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Number 24, item 24. Discussion on agreement with Hanson Consulting RFP 2020-008P for DWI Grant Program Coordinator for the Village of Ruidoso, Lincoln County. And just to save John some time of talking, this is just the agreement. And I would feel that it goes along on the consent item with the others.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree. That item will be on consent. Moving to item 25. Discussion on purchase of a dock for the storage and launching of personal watercraft by the concession operations at Grindstone Lake. Mr. Griego.
Okay, so this is the 3rd dock that we had planned several months ago, but what the funding was frozen due to the current economic situation. What we had anticipated that we would be okay without purchasing this dock until later time. However, with the amount of activity that we've seen in the last several weeks, I really believe that we should try to purchase this sooner rather than later. I was given, verbal approval during the pre-agenda meeting to proceed with the purchase of this dock. And so a purchase order has been submitted and the order has been placed. We're anticipating the installation to be completed next week. The reasoning behind needing the dock sooner rather than later was we're having just a tremendous amount of activity at the lake, including the rentals of the vessels. And so what is currently happening is the vessels are being repositioned from inside the concession to outside the concession on a daily basis. And so from them being moved and sometimes being drugged on the ground, or as customers are bringing in the vessels into the shoreline and they're docking on the shoreline, that is causing a little abrasion on the bottom of the boat, which weakens that bottom of the boat. We've from the past 2 years, we've had a few that need a little bit of repair where they create holes by docking on the shoreline. And the dock will also provide a safer alternative for people to enter these boats off of the dock instead of off of the shoreline as well. The plan is to have overnight storage on the dock. For the outdoor storage, they would utilize a cable that connects to each of the vessels that anchors it to the dock. This also frees up retail space in the building, which will also provide additional revenue and a more professional appearance.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
I would request that we change this one to read ratification. This is the issue that I called on last week and informed the counselors of. And so the requisition has been issued.
I would also suggest that a slight change to the memo, instead of the wording personal watercraft, is just maybe rental watercraft rentals. When I first read this, I thought it was, when I read personal watercraft, I think it's people bringing their own boats, their own personal watercraft. And then later on in the memo, we had it's defined as a storage and launching area for personal watercraft rentals. So just to make it clear, so people don't think we're putting in another dock for private boats.
Well, that's what I was hoping for, Tim, that Rodney was opening up a marina and I could rent a spot there to keep my boat there all year. So, but I agree with you. It should be rental watercraft or concessioned or contracted watercraft. I don't know.
And if we allow cabin cruisers, there's another glamping opportunity.
There you go. So yes, Manager Dodge, you are correct that we should put this as a ratification of the purchase on there, and that's like I had questioned you earlier. I thought we had already budgeted, but you corrected me on that we hold it off on that and needing to take action on that. So with that being said, I would suggest we put this on the regular item, as it's a ratification and needing a vote from the council.
Thank you, Counselor.
I agree. Right, but can I just say something real quick?
Yes, of course.
Rodney, the grindstone looks so wonderful, and the dock. I'm really excited about this, and I think this is very important. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's again, this is one of those that's taken the whole village You know, with the Adam and Josh's assistance and the water department and the park staff, it's really come together, and I'm personally looking forward to seeing it completed. I think it's gonna be a huge and beautiful asset for the village.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas.
Any other?
This is Irma, if I may.
Yes.
On that item number 25, normally, usually a ratification item we list as a consent item. Do you still want this one listed as a regular item?
Oh, I thought we had to have it on the regular, but if it's it could be listed as consent, then yeah, that would move forward.
I would say leave it as
But-
regular, and it gives Ronnie another opportunity to talk about the improvements that are taking place at Grindstone.
I agree.
Okay, let's leave it as regular.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Rodney? Not being, we'll move to item number 26. Discussion on the reservation of $1 million from fiscal year 2020 budget for workforce affordable housing.
Mayor Pro Tem, on this one, we had discussions on the Cream Manor property that is being proposed by Chelsea. This item is just showing that we have reserved $1 million for the proposed project. And that way we can show Chelsea in good faith that we have set aside money to participate with the project if they do acquire that property and move forward with a proposed rehab project in accordance with the Affordable Housing Act.
Which makes sense, very much. And as we keep pursuing for that workforce housing, we need to take every avenue possible. And we do have this budgeted. I mean, it's not putting a damper on our reserves, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, good. Any other, you know, what came up for me, Judy, I'm glad you're on the sale of properties that we had, and a portion of that went to affordable housing. Do we have an amount of what's in that account?
Yes, hold on one second. The original amount was $85,022, but this year they paid a survey or something for Site Southwest out of it. And so now the remaining balance is $77,169.
So help me there, Manager Dodge. Was not that money could be allocated for this, or do we need to keep the $1 million?
Mayor Pro Tem, the 77,000 can be used towards that as well. That went into that housing trust fund. The $1 million is set aside that we requested for that in addition to it. So we can either reduce the $1 million down by 77 to come up with a total of $1 million, but on the $1 million, all this is doing is set aside and putting it aside so that we have it earmarked for that. It doesn't encumber or it doesn't completely, it doesn't expend the monies at this time. Chelsea will still come back with a proposed project participation agreement and request a grant from the Village of Ruidoso. So this is just really a set aside to say we do have the money to participate with a proposed project.
Okay. That's better. Any other questions from the councilors on this item? And with this being the issue, I would suggest we have it as a regular item for discussion to verify that reservation or else.
Mayor Pro Temp, and just as a reminder, the Site Southwest contract that Judy, our finance director, referred to, that was to actually do the market study, which updated the housing study and gave us current prices or current market conditions. We utilize that information to change to the tier system. And we did get that tier system accomplished. So I just wanted to bring that up, that that's what the money was used for.
Okay, and that'll be good information to say during our regular meeting. Any other questions for Manager Dodge and Judy Starkovich? Y'all agree that it'd be on regular? I heard Tim say he agreed, but I guess we'll stick with regular. I think that's all of it. That's the longest discussion meeting I think we've had. There being no other business to this council, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Mayor Pro Temp.
Thank you all.
Mayor Pro Temp.
Yes.
Before you do that, can we just give a couple of the other items that will be on the agenda? I think
I'm sorry about that, Tim. I take back my closure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tim.
Irma, can you talk about the other items that are on there for ratification? And then do we have a public hearing or is there a couple other items?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, members of the governing body, Manager Dodge, we do have 3 consent items that are going to be listed as ratification items. And this is, of course, there's going to be in addition to what you guys just covered during this workshop. The ratification items, there is adoption of a resolution. And this one is being presented by Ron Senna, I believe. It's in reference to the grant offer specifically relating to the CARES Act. So this grant offer is from the FAA, and of course through this ratification, the mayor was authorized to execute and sign the grant agreement. The other ratification item is an agreement, obviously between the Village of Ruidoso and CIC Limited, which is the Cummings property. As a result of the outcome of the closed session during the May 12th meeting, the action that the governing body took, then this agreement is now coming forward for transparency purposes.
Okay.
The third ratification item listed under consent is the assignment of a lease agreement with, and I'm not going to chop this off, this last name, Kostuitz Family Trust and Bobby Pennell. And this is for a lease of a hangar over at Sierra Blanca Regional Airport. That's what we have so far under consent, and Mr. Dodge was correct. We have also published a public hearing, and that's for an ordinance amendment, specifically relating to Chapter 78 for lodger's tax, under Section 7836, exemptions from tax. So what that's offering is the removal of the three property rule from the ordinance, so that our ordinance will coincide with state statute with that removal.
Thank you, Irma.
That's scheduling the public hearing, correct?
And no, sir, this is actually the public hearing.
That's it?
The actual
Okay.
request for to schedule the public hearing, you guys took action on that during your special meeting on May 20th.
Okay, that's right.
So that's giving us enough time for publication and to be able to hold a public hearing at this coming meeting tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Irma.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Temp, in addition to that, I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a project update meeting this Thursday. If the councilors would like to listen in, we can make that information available. And if there's anything specifically that you'd like us to report on, please feel free to contact me or just let me know.
Okay. And is that it?
Yes, sir. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tim, and all the staff. Thank you, counselors. And we hope the mayor has a good report after this meeting he's at. At this point, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you again.
Thank you.